What happened tonight will be written in blood in the history books. But is this the beginning of a catastrophic world war? Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this video right now, you need to buckle up because what I'm about to tell you will send shockwaves down your spine. This isn't just another news story. This could be the trigger that unleashes World War III. Did America just make the biggest mistake in modern history? Will China strike back? And the most terrifying question, could your country be next? Stay with me till the very end, because every second of this video contains explosive revelations that the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. The date, January 2nd, 2026. The time, the darkest hours of night. While the world slept, the United States military launched what can only be described as the most audacious, most dangerous military operation in decades. Operation Absolute Resolve. Just saying that name should send chills down your spine, because what unfolded in Caracas, Venezuela that night was nothing short of a declaration of war, not just against Venezuela, but potentially against China itself. Over 150 American aircraft launched across the Western Hemisphere. Navy SEALs, Delta Force, the CIA, NSA, America's deadliest warriors descended on downtown Caracas with one mission: capture President Nicolas Maduro and his wife by force. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stood before the cameras, his voice dripping with pride and power, declaring to the world, finally, a commander-in-chief the world respects and the American people deserve. He called it sheer guts and grit, gallantry and glory. He boasted that no other country on planet Earth could pull this off. But here's what they didn't tell you in that press conference. Now, pay very close attention because this is where things get absolutely terrifying. According to multiple regional intelligence reports, a Chinese envoy was in Caracas meeting directly with Nicolas Maduro just hours before American forces struck. Let that sink in for a moment. Chinese diplomats, on the ground, in the presidential palace, possibly still there when American commandos breached the compound. Can you imagine? Can you even comprehend what could have happened if American forces had encountered Chinese officials during this raid? This wasn't just an extraction mission. This was a potential international incident that could have sparked immediate armed conflict between the world's two superpowers. Beijing is furious, and I mean absolutely, unequivocally enraged. China has issued what experts are calling the strongest condemnation in modern diplomatic history. The Chinese Foreign Ministry released a statement that didn't just criticize America, it threatened consequences. This is a clear violation of international law, the United Nations Charter, and the basic norms governing relations between sovereign states. We demand the immediate release of President Maduro and his wife. The United States must stop the forcible toppling of Venezuela's government. But it gets worse. Remember what President Trump said? Let me play this back for you. It all dates back to the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot. They now call it the Donroe Document. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. Do you understand what he just said? America just declared the entire Western Hemisphere as its exclusive territory. No foreign powers allowed. Period. This isn't 1823 anymore. This isn't the age of wooden ships and colonial empires. This is 2026, when China has trillion-dollar investments across Latin America, when Chinese warships patrol the Pacific, when Beijing has defense agreements with multiple countries in America's backyard. Defense Secretary Hegseth made it crystal clear. Nicolas Maduro effed around, and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country, deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us, and deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. Getting back the oil that was stolen from us. That one sentence tells you everything you need to know. This wasn't about justice. This wasn't about democracy. This was about resources. This was about oil. And this was about sending a message to China. Stay out of our hemisphere or face the consequences. Here's the economic reality that makes this situation a ticking time bomb. China is Venezuela's largest oil buyer. We're talking about millions of barrels, billions of dollars in investments, decades of strategic partnership. Venezuelan oil is a crucial component of China's energy security and its global South strategy. Sure, Venezuelan oil only represents a small percentage of China's total oil imports. But that's not the point. The point is precedent. If China allows America to overthrow a government that Beijing has heavily invested in, what message does that send? What about Cuba, where China has military facilities? What about Nicaragua, where Chinese companies are building infrastructure? What about Argentina, Brazil, Ecuador? All countries with massive Chinese investments. If America can snatch Maduro from his palace in the middle of the night, who's next? From Beijing's perspective, this isn't just about Venezuela. This is about whether China can protect its allies, its investments, and its global standing. And here's the most dangerous part. China can't afford to look weak. Not now. Not with Taiwan watching. Not with the South China Sea on the line. Let me paint you a picture of just how massive this operation was, because Chairman of the Joint Chiefs Dan Kane laid it out in terrifying detail. Over 150 aircraft launched simultaneously across the Western Hemisphere. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Space Force Guardians working in perfect coordination. CIA, NSA, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, every intelligence asset America has. Months of planning, decades of experience, unlimited resources. This was the full might of the American military machine focused on a single objective in a single city. Chairman Kane said it himself. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd. An operation that frankly only the United States military could undertake. He talked about hunting terrorists. He talked about audacious operations. He talked about achieving tactical surprise with an extraction force in downtown Caracas. But here's what he didn't talk about: international law, sovereignty, diplomatic solutions, the United Nations, consequences. Because America didn't care about any of that. Now here's what's truly frightening. Despite the outrage, despite the condemnation, despite the clear humiliation, China's response has been measured. No military mobilization, no immediate sanctions, no breaking of diplomatic relations. Why? Because Beijing is playing a different game. China doesn't want World War III yet. But make no mistake, China is keeping score. Every violation of international law, every act of unilateral aggression, every time America acts like the world's policeman, Beijing is watching, learning, and preparing. Chinese military analysts are studying this operation right now. They're looking at how to counter American special operations, how to protect allied leaders, how to prevent similar extractions in the future, and how to respond when the time is right. Because that's the thing about superpowers, they don't forget. They don't forgive. They wait for the perfect moment to strike back. So where does this leave us? Welcome to 2026, ladies and gentlemen. As Defense Secretary Hegseth so proudly declared, under President Trump, America is back. But back to what? Back to unilateral military interventions? Back to toppling governments? Back to a world where might makes right? The Monroe Doctrine is officially reborn. The Western Hemisphere is America's domain, and China has been put on notice. But here's the million-dollar question. Will China accept this new world order? History tells us that rising powers don't back down when cornered. History tells us that when one superpower draws a line, another superpower crosses it just to prove they can. The world just became exponentially more dangerous. Venezuela is just the beginning. This is about precedent, about power, about who rules the 21st century. Keep your eyes on Taiwan. Keep your eyes on the South China Sea. Keep your eyes on every Chinese investment in Latin America. Because if America can do this to Venezuela, who's next? This is your wake-up call. Share this video. The world needs to know what's really happening. World War III might not start with missiles and tanks. It might start with a raid in the middle of the night in a city most people can't find on a map. Stay informed, stay alert, and pray that cooler heads prevail.